This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, Susanne.
Morning.
I always like how you're all bright and shiny and I'm kind of in the shadows. But you know, it's our personalities. So during our coffee chat today, which is going to be around the beautiful gene key of stillness, actually stress to stillness, through the path of restraint, which I think is not, I agree with Richard, it's not a very fun thing to talk about as a gift. But more importantly, how do we embody this, and how do we find ways to be in community in stillness and with restraint? And well, I know how we can do it in stress. Just go step outside or be in partnership or something. So let's dig in, shall we? Can we do me a favor? I would like to, and I thought about this morning when I first woke up. I just want to drop in. And one of the things that I learned years ago in energy school was around, besides connecting down into the earth and up into the heavens and having that fluid energy exchange with the heavens and the earth, there's this tuning in, and I like Richard's term of still point, and then the other work I've done with feminine presence, I like it, the womb space, whatever you want to call that cauldron of energy in our power center. So it's easier for me if I put my thumb in my belly button and cup around my belly and imagine that about 3 inches inside in the center is that my cauldron or still point or power center. What do you call it, by the way? Hara, Dantian?
I just call it a center.
Center. And what I want to do is is to just call all of our energy back. This is something that I used to do in every session with every client, and every energy reading opportunity I had was to pretend like I was like a bird feeder, and that all my energy was coming back to me, right? Or I'm the beehive, the queen bee, and all of my little fragments of me that are out there doing all the busy work can return and land. And that always felt so good. It's like, oh, I feel so much more whole versus having all that scattered energy out there. So that calling back all of our parts, if you will, is a beautiful way to get into that space of still point, center, womb space, hara. Thank you. I needed that because I was all over the place this morning. So how would you like to talk about this beautiful gene key?
Well, I want to share something that I found in this energy almanac. And
oh, cool. Is that, what's her name? Leonie?
It's a collective that does this.
It looks like Leonie in artwork.
Yeah, the copyright is by Tam Veilleur. And the gift in the shadow of the week, the way they kind of create a synopsis of it, I always find it interesting when I pull from different places, but I like the way they put it. They said, we take on 2 mighty shadows this week, stress and dissatisfaction. Did you know that in human design, joy is a foundational energy, not an emotion? Which I thought is interesting.
Uh-huh.
The implications of that are huge. It means that we are designed to find joy, be in joy, and enjoy life. And however life sometimes takes us into struggle, we can feel robbed of our joy. But this week, we're here to practice even finding joy in the smallest of things, whether it be a color, a sound, a taste of a strawberry. Like it's just, and in my case this week I'm juicing, so watermelon juice is just feeling delicious to my body. Joy doesn't have to be like all bubbly all the time. I remember my simplest joy of just when I can just pet my cat and be like, oh my gosh, I get to be here and just pet the cat. And so it doesn't have to be like this enormous thing that takes us into joy. It's the simplicity of it. So
I love that. So,
yeah.
the Sufi teacher that I've worked with, Mark Silver, in some of his business coaching programs, he talks about some of those things like joy as being divinely granted. Like we're human and sometimes we can't generate that on our own, and that to come to a place of stillness and say, I'm ready to receive. Let me receive. I want to receive. I'm asking for joy. And it's so interesting to me because I was like, oh, I don't have to do this all myself.
That's where the community comes in. Because then it's like,
oh,
remember. Oh yeah. Thanks for being the light for me.
Exactly. So I'm going to make us on side by side. I don't know why we're not showing up that way. Because I like to be able to see you. There we go. Now we're next to each other.
Oh.
On my view. I don't know how it records, but anyway, so where I want to go with you is what, stress is something that we all are starting to recognize. The more we start doing our embodiment work, we're starting to go, oh, I hold that in my shoulders or in my jaw. I had all that work. I talked to my dentist. She goes, you don't know how many people have been cracking their teeth during COVID because of the stress they were clenching. So there's one of my telltale spaces. And even though I don't touch my teeth anymore, I still hold the tension in that jawline. And the other places when my shoulders do this, which Zoom, thank you, COVID, has allowed me to see. I notice them all of a sudden going, I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So what are ways that you hold stress? That you notice?
I hold it in my back. I do know
What
that.
does it? Do you know? What does it feel like? Can you feel it?
Oh yeah. You feel, usually I develop a knot in the middle of my back. And so one of the things I will say that has helped alleviate this is moving my body. Like literally, whether it's biking or doing my osteostrong or doing my aerial yoga, it has helped to move this energy out of my body, because we're not meant to just, we are meant to be still, but our mind, I think, is still. We can still be in motion.
That's the thing I was going to say. So we can also be still. We can achieve stillness. I know sometimes cleaning the kitchen for me.
Yeah.
And taking a shower, we just had a pretty quick walk, which I would not consider one of my more meditative ones because I wanted to get my walk in and get back in time. But where I find the most stillness and movement for me is yoga. Yeah. Or I started doing a Tai Chi class, and the focus on the breathing and the movement and the energy, watching the energy flow is so fantastic to get me into a place of, well, first of all, the breath. As soon as I'm breathing in a nice, slow fashion, there is no way to hold stress and anxiety, which I believe is a chronic thing that we breathe in like the oxygen. So the more that we feel it when you get onto the roads, you may not be stressed, but you can see and feel it with the other drivers. Even the people that run by me at the park, I can see it in their faces. I'm like, you should be breathing and calm down. So,
I found interesting because I've really made a conscious choice during the past, I think, to really clean up everything. So I've done a cleanse, I've done, the work, and I just got a notification that my resting breathing rate has changed. So I went to go investigate that today, and I'm down to 55, which that means that everything is working, and it feels like my body is a lot stiller because it's not working.
Energy efficiency. Yeah. And when the heart doesn't have to work as hard, that is fab. Congratulations.
Thank you. High five.
Feels really good. And so I want to play with, okay, so stress, which we know is something that we're just going to, I want to be able to start noticing when we're, oh, that's stress. What's the restraint? How does that play in as a gift?
Okay. How does restraint play as a gift? Or
yeah, so because okay, so we're out in the car, we're driving, we see somebody do a kind of a, I hate to be judgy, but like a really silly move, like unsafe driving, and you're like, oh man, and you can feel the stress emanating from that driver, and then you're like, okay, so my restraint would be, I don't need to go there, I will just send them love. I can stay in my calm, and hopefully that radiates out just as much, if not more, than his anger or her anger, It's
like you're anchoring the slowness, your time. That's what I'm feeling, like you're anchoring that long-term view, because you recognize that everything has its own time and space in which it moves. Richard says something about the fact that it's like on a fulcrum of between passivity and activity, and you find that balance, but you know that everything has its cosmic timing. It's the balance. And so if somebody's doing their thing, at least you're being in the observer mode to say, oh, that's happening. Does that have to affect me? Do I need to get caught in that whirlwind? You're the one that as the middle of the fulcrum, exuding that calmness. Well,
yeah. So to me, in terms of restraint, it's like I'm going to rein back is how I think about the word. So for me, it also can be, what do I want to do less of? Because if I do too much of it, it actually works against me. So for example, the movement and the exercise, that to me is a relaxing way to release stress and all of that. However, too much, or going on a walk where I feel like I have to get in, I have to walk 4 miles an hour and I have to do it, so many steps, and I'm so worried about that. To me, that's not, there's a restraint to pull back from. I don't need to play in that energy world. I'm out for a walk and enjoying it and allowing it, my movement, to, nourish my body. And it's the same with restraint on food and that second glass of wine, or how many handfuls of popcorn, whatever. That's a restraint too. Whereas I need to choose sometimes. I am closing my phone. I have to literally close my laptop and go, I'm not going to do any more work today. That's restraint for me, because that's something that I could get lost in.
I like that insight. Thank you.
Sure.
One of the things this Gene Key talks about is the fact that this gift is all about our ecology, and it's really about trusting in life. And so if we trust in life, we can stay calm, because like you just go with the flow. And it's all about, number one, setting that clear intention. The clarity is the key, and not out of fear, but just out of your pure knowingness.
Yeah. And it falls right back into my life's work of beingness. Like, can I just be still? Can I calm the mind, I mean, even if my mind stays active, can I find that center stillness in the middle of all that? That's for me the key. Is I may never get everything the way I want it, like perfection in my sacred space here at home, or especially in the garden. Thank you, Mother Nature, for showing me that I can't control that. However, I can achieve a sense of, oh, that's beautiful, just the way it is. And dropping into that space, that the pausing. You know what? After talking to you the other day about using the Triple Flame app on my phone,
Yeah.
It disappeared. It went away. So now I have to reinstall it and set the timing, because I've been missing it, because it was set and it would remind me, oh, there's 6 other people pausing right now. And I loved that pausing in community thing. It felt good.
I was there yesterday. I was there yesterday and there were 65 people.
Nice. Must be a lot on the East Coast. No, I don't know. So time-wise. So the pausing gives us an opportunity to drop into stillness too, even if there's all kinds of stuff going on. So if you're in, what does stillness feel like if we were to feel like the embodiment of stillness?
No drama. It's all harmony.
Yeah, that's more, to me, that would be an emotional thing. But what would be a physical sensation? For me, it's breathing and really feeling. It's remembering to breathe, I guess, the old-fashioned way of breathing all the way down into our bellies. Because I know when I'm in stress, I breathe shallowly.
Right. And that, what's interesting is this key is the physiology. This key is the perineum, which is, right, that space.
The very base of our spine.
Right. And so it's like, you can't get any more still point than that. You're sitting on it.
Literally.
It's,
And it's also, to me, it's really close to where I imagine the electromagnetic cords from Mother Earth come in and hold us, right? The gravity and all of that. And then the energetic cords that we have from the divine coming down. I mean, if you see that they are anchored in a spot, which to me is typically a little bit above the perineum, but I love that thought of imagining it to even drop down to that space. Because then it feels like I'm like really anchored. I love that feeling, actually. And that's something that I don't feel very often. Water. When we went to a pool party last week, and I spent so much time in the water. I hadn't done that in, I don't know, since last summer. And so it was just to hang out and talk to everybody and have our floaties, and just was the best. There's something about the fluidity, about the trusting that I can float, that I'm not going to, I don't have any of that fear of not being held. I feel so held in that space.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to read something from the Gene Keys, if I can, for just a moment.
Absolutely.
It says the acidic level of frequency, or lack of frequency, the body actually creates hormones and neurotransmitters that are extremely rarefied. Every city has a unique glandular secretion, and in this case, the 52nd city is a hormone is secreted which induces bliss and stillness throughout the body. And so in this case, the 52nd city, the experience of time standing still is reflected through a neurotransmitter that effectively stops thought when awareness is not required for communication. So the mental chatter just, it's stilling the way.
Yeah. And I have to say, my experience with plant medicine and even in simple things of like um, cacao, in my coffee in the morning, not going into a full on journey space, but there's something about that stillness that just kind of feels like, and sometimes I feel like because I've had those experiences, I can tap into it more easily. I had a conversation with a friend who facilitates ceremony space. And she said, remember, it's not the product, it's not what you're imbibing in that journey time. It is you that is creating those experiences, and you can recreate those experiences anytime. So now I'm playing with, remember that time when I was in journey space and I had that sense of swimming in my heart space? I'm starting to recreate those experiences without any product. And it is really a fun, I mean, now that I know I can, I'm able to drop into that space a little bit more often.
That's exciting.
So
Well, it sounds like you made that connection in your brain to be able to do that. So
yeah, and my body remembers it.
yeah.
So my body does it faster than my brain, because my brain's like, oh, you can't do it on your own. You need to have this, support. And that's not true. My body goes, I know how. Kind of like getting back on a bike. I can do that. So anyway, so any thoughts on how to close our coffee chat today in stillness, or to share with how to be in this space with community?
Well, knowing that each of us has our own timing, I think it's a matter of really diving into our heart center, or our center, coming back to our center and being okay with what is right now. And as we each accept that part of ourselves, the magnetism of who we are is going to attract the family, or the folks that are ready to receive or be in communion with one another.
Yeah. The fractal, what's it called? How does he call it? The how we each have like this fractal family. Is that that we share, some of the same soul journeys, and and sometimes we pop in and off of those paths with people. We know that, right? I was with this person for 20 something years, and now so I love that, and I am so appreciative of being able to have this conversation with you, because it just brings a different view of some of these things that, in my awareness, I'm trying to not call it just my mind, but there's a whole other intelligence up there. And then the intelligence of this space, and then grounding that down into the intelligence of my my womb space, my Dantian, so every time we have a conversation, it gives me another little, ooh, plant that seed. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'll see you next time. And I am going to say, if there's any way that anybody would like to know more about working with you, I want you to talk a little bit about the Gene Key Human Design astrological synopsis reports that you've done, because I found that I still refer to mine regularly. It was such a resource for me.
Well, when I started studying gene keys, I didn't even know where to go or what to find or how to view anything. So what I finally ended up doing for myself is pulling all of these pieces together so that I could have one simplified version for me that I could then just take bite size, rather than having to filter through all of the books and all of the work. And so I just found it really useful So I ended up starting to do that for some of my clients. And it just, it simplifies it so that you can remember at a touch point, oh, okay, yeah, that's right. This is where I am.
Yeah, and
Or it's a
it
map.
just rang, and it rang so true. It was like, oh, I already knew that, but I didn't know it. You know, I got it. I got the wisdom on a different level.
Mhm.
I think the combination that the way you did it brought the different modalities together in a way that they blended and the wording made sense. Anyway, I just want to let you know that if anybody's interested, her, whatever, what do you call it?
I'm
What do you
just
call it?
calling it,
Synopsis?
yeah, synopsis.
A Susanne synopsis. So that it's amazing. And when I post this, I want to make sure that you have your contact information in there. Okie dokie smoky.
Sounds good.
So bye everyone. Have an amazing week. Talk to you later.